Hey everybody, Judd, Zulgad, Andrew Krammer, that's right. Tom Pelissero out of the picture. Andrew Krammer, welcome aboard, at least for these first two home preseason games. It's going to be the two of us talking Vikings for 1500ESPN.com. Thanks for coming to the website, following the coverage. Of course, you can find a bunch of stories already. Andrew's been doing a great job from training camp. Vikings play their first preseason game tonight against the Houston-Texans. As usual with preseason games, Andrew, it was a long night. Texans win 27-13. The final score does not matter one bit. What matters is what we saw really in the first half. Let's start off with the quarterback play. Leslie Frazier told Christian Ponder, one series for you, Christian. What we didn't know is that Christian wouldn't get more than two plays. A completion to Jerome Simpson, and then Jerome Simpson giveth and he taketh away, because he then tipped a Ponder pass that certainly wasn't perfect for an interception, and that was the end of the night for Christian Ponder.
Very true, and it opened up the night for guys like Cordarrelle Patterson. We didn't get to see anything out of Greg Jennings. He had 0 catches. He stepped in the game, just played alongside Jerome Simpson, who got targeted twice. Other than that, we didn't see much out of other guys tonight. So Christian Ponder just gets 2 passes. Leslie Frazier said after the game he was tempted to put him back in, but he stuck to why. He said, I remembered why we stuck with this plan. Didn't want to get a guy like Ponder hurt. In this first preseason game, he said he wanted to see what other guys could do, meaning Matt Cassel. He said in the second and third game he'll give Ponder a little bit more room to work with.
I asked Ponder after the game, how much do you expect to play next Friday against Buffalo? He said probably a quarter in that game. Obviously, the third preseason game is the key one. Ponder and the first team offensive line should play through the first half, maybe into the third quarter in that game. So tonight, no matter what happened, Ponder wasn't going to get much work. He certainly didn't get much tonight, like I said, just 2 plays. Gave Matt Cassel an opportunity. Cassel's in a tough situation. Here's a guy who started a quarterback in this league, certainly is a viable backup and potential starter here, but the interesting thing is, Andrew, when you put a guy like Matt Cassel in a game like this, and you put him behind a second-team offensive line, it's a little bit trying. He can do some things, and Cassel played well at times, but you could tell he also had those happy feet because he had no idea how good the protection would be.
He really did, and that's what led to his first interception, actually. He stepped up into the pocket when he didn't need to, got rid of the ball way too early, and the safety was right there in front of John Carlson at his check down. He didn't even look to see if someone was in front of John. So, again, Cassel was just getting, like you said, the happy feet, kind of stammering around back there. Not as comfortable as you would like to see your backup quarterback come in and play, especially a guy that's been in the league as long as Matt Cassel has. So he's got some room to work with there as well with Matt. It was just interesting to see, too, like we talked about, Cordarrelle Patterson comes through and he shines. He comes through and he actually has 104 all-purpose yards, takes that opening kickoff back 50 yards.
Very Percy Harvin-like coming.
Very Percy Harvin-like. Gets 4 catches for 54 yards. He was targeted 7 times on the night by Cassel, one of his favorite targets. And some of those incompletions weren't even all of his fault either. The ball just wasn't there for him. So a guy to look for in the future.
Impressive with Cordarrelle Patterson. One thing I saw that I liked is the first ball that was thrown to him near the sideline, he couldn't get both feet in. And obviously he's coming from the college game in Tennessee, where if you have 1 foot in, it's a catch. The second time, he got both feet in. This kid, I think, is a quick study. He might be raw, but he clearly has a ton of talent. You now realize when the Vikings gave up a lot to the Patriots to get back in the first round for the 3rd time in April, you now realize exactly what they were doing. Cordarrelle Patterson, I'll give him this. When you watch him play, he seems to get it. And he might be raw. He has a lot to learn, but he's not one of those guys you're thinking, oh, project. This is a guy you're thinking, he could make a difference.
Yeah, and especially a guy like that, first-round pick, you'd expect him to come out afterwards, talk to the media in the locker room, say, yeah, look at me. No, he told me straight up, he said, no, I'm going to go back and look at the mistakes I made. And so, like you said, it's a guy that seems like he gets it. Leslie Frazier seems to be already in his head before he even stepped down the NFL field. So it seems like he knows what he needs to do to compete at this high level and keep working at it, and he's going to.
A lot of guys who did not play as well, Mr. Krammer. We had lots of guys. This is no surprise. This is the NFL preseason. This is why 4 games is ridiculous. But this is the NFL preseason as we know it now. Your Jared Allen's, he rolls his ankle in practice. He's not going to play. 3 first-round picks. Sharif Floyd played, dinged up his left knee, and he's already such an NFL veteran when it comes to injury updates. He said, what injury? I'm not hurt. Xavier Rhodes did not play in this game, the cornerback, which I would have liked to seen him play. And Patterson did play, but we saw a lot of veteran players not, either they didn't play in this game, or like Greg Jennings, they're listed as a starter. They might have been on the field, but they were on the field so quickly you barely saw them.
Yeah, we saw nothing of the Ponder to Jennings connection that Vikings fans want to see, and especially on the defensive side of the ball. You had your second-string linebackers out there essentially right away. Aaron Henderson did play a few series, but after that it was all, a Marvin Mitchell who filling in for Desmond Bishop, who you'd assume would take the first-string snaps at weak side linebacker eventually. He still hasn't set foot on a field now over Yep. Keeping that in. Xavier needs to learn to let go after 5 yards, and you can't really learn that unless you're going up against wide receivers trying to run down the field on you, and then you get the flags thrown, and then you get the coaches on you. They need those kind of worthless flags to come out in the preseason. Use those games for a guy like Xavier.
Let's also talk about what we saw here as far as guys who are under the radar. You've been at every practice. I've been at a couple, but I've heard the buzz from Mankato is Stephen Burton. Now you have to understand, Stephen Burton's a young man I saw as a rookie on a Hail Mary pass in Mankato. This is a couple of years ago. As a rookie on a Hail Mary pass. Keep in mind, he's a wide receiver. He batted the ball down. He was so confused that he broke the play up and he could have caught the ball. And you said to yourself, oh boy, this kid's going to be lucky if he's around tomorrow. Stephen Burton's not only still around right now, but he's a guy whose name keeps coming up, and tonight we saw why. He had, 3 times he was targeted, caught all 3 passes for 67 yards. He made a beautiful play at midfield where he caught, sort of a crossing route, and instead of going with the play, which is what every receiver does, he reversed fields and left the defender in his wake and got a ton of extra yardage. If there's one guy that you've looked at so far at training camp and said, he is a different player, Stephen Burton.
It really is, and I've heard 2 stories of the past training camps where he's been this training camp hero, made a bunch of plays, whether it was preseason or in camps, but then never was consistent. Frazier talked about that. Needed to see that consistency with a guy named Stephen Burton. We saw it out here tonight. He had the 3 catches. He also made the block that freed Zach Line on a 61-yard touchdown catch. Zach caught it 1 yard deep, ran 60 yards, and it was because Stephen Burton's crossing block that got him free for the other, because Zach is not a fast runner by any means.
And Burton, I talked to him after the game in the locker room, and I said to him, I said, you look different. I said, you look like you've lost weight. Not that you were fat, but I said, you were stocky. What happened? He said he spent this entire offseason cutting his body fat, eating more vegetables, being much smarter. So far it's paid off, and at the rate he's going to make this team. One last thing I want to get to, and this, to me, this is one of the underrated storylines of training camp, and people might roll their eyes, but it is the kicker-holder combination with Locke, the new punter, and they drafted him. He's working with Blair Walsh, a second-year kicker. And Chris Cluey had helped for a long time. Blair Walsh made 2 field goals tonight, but I don't think you can underestimate the Cullen Loeffler to Locke holding to Blair Walsh kicking, because if anything goes wrong there, that could be a huge deal.
And it messes up the whole thing. Yeah, even if Blair Walsh is lined up perfectly, even if Cullen Loeffler snaps it perfectly, if Locke gets one finger on it wrong, it's going to mess up the entire situation. Yep. And people forget, Chris Cluey sure was a great punter, but he was known as one of the better holders in the National Football League, and that's what kept him around for so long in Minnesota, and that's a big shoes to fill for Jeff Locke.
So once again, a lot of guys don't play tonight. It's not a big deal. You won't see Adrian Peterson, I don't think, for the entire preseason. You'll see more Ponder next Friday against Buffalo, and then you'll see a lot more Ponder in the 3rd preseason game, which, by the way, is another away game at San Francisco. And then the Vikings will complete the preseason right here in the Metrodome against the Tennessee Titans, playing absolutely nobody. And eventually we're going to talk about the fact, too, that the Vikings are now celebrating the last year of the Dome, which I think is really odd, because they couldn't wait to get out of this building. They wanted to implode this building so bad a couple years ago they could taste it, and now we're sort of going back and reminiscing about the Metrodome. Anyway, 27-13, Houston Texans win tonight against the Vikings preseason opener Friday night here at the Dome. That's not the storyline. The storyline is everything we just talked about. Judd, Zulgad, Andrew Krammer. Read his work, read my work, 1500ESPN.com. Of course, you can hear me weekdays from 9 to 1 with Jeff Dubé, 1500 ESPN. That is it. We'll be talking to you soon with more updates from the Vikings. Thanks for watching.